We'll get started then. Welcome. I'm glad that you are all here. One of my greatest anxieties was that I was going to come, that no one would actually come in the door. But at the same time, you're welcome to leave at any point during my presentation. But I think this will be. I think. No, I won't be offended, especially if you have a baby. That's a free hall pass in my mind. Anyways. So if somebody else borrows your baby, they'll be slightly offended. But I'm really grateful for this opportunity. And you know, a few weeks ago, or as I've been preparing, I thought the one thing I want to share with you is that I really love to teach. I enjoy this part of what I do and working with my students. And so hopefully I can help you with something that's going to be useful and that you can use. I think my presentation here is very practical. Feel free to stop me at any time if you have questions or anything like that, because you know, I don't think we're going to take a whole lot of your time necessarily, but this is something that I've done that I think is useful. And the title is audio feedback, and I'm not going to make that sound that speakers give when they start feedbacking. I couldn't think of anything better, so we have, I guess, the wrong thing. How I got started with this, I've been using Gene for a really long time to give feedback to my students. Many of you have, and so I'm not going to talk a whole lot about that. But what really got me excited is I think last year I was on one of the pilots for the new Brightspace. I talked to the tech guys, and they said it's going to be called Brightspace or Island 3.0, but eventually it'll just be called Island. So it's going to change names, and hopefully won't confuse you on that. But it's very effective. It's very good, very easy to do these things here, because to make an audio recording in the new software, all you have to do, there's a little button and you push it. And then you record it and you hit stop, and it's already on whatever assignment was there. It's amazing. It's very, very easy. We're not cutting and pasting. We're not doing anything like that. The one disadvantage, though, I'll talk about that in a minute, is you can't take that out of Brightspace or Island. And there are occasions where you want to do that, actually. So, but it's very useful. If you haven't seen it, you're gonna really like that. The same thing with video. You can actually record yourself at the same time. So we'll kind of talk about those things. Before we get there, though, these are the ways that we respond to students. You can send them emails, and if you're like me, you get 10,000 emails a day, and so that has varying levels of effectiveness. Hopefully they read your instructor emails, but there's no guarantees. I believe the more I teach, the less they're reading the emails that I send, actually. You can text your students back and forth, which is wonderful until they're on the other side of the earth and they text you at 2 in the morning, right? That becomes a problem. You can call them on the phone, kind of effective. I teach high school, so I don't answer my phone from 8 to 6 most days because it's just not convenient for me. We use rubric feedback tools, use those, especially because I teach English online, and so I use a lot of those and use some of those. This whole idea of audio and visual, this is where your students live today. They love video, they love audio, they always have their little earphones, and even your older students are starting to catch up to that trend, and they like that. And so this is where I'm going to focus a lot of our attention here today. Not that these things, you can't use these other things, but hopefully we can open your eyes to something good. So I just want to take a minute, because we've been sitting for a long time. I found some sisters on the internet, missionaries here, and your voice is very, very powerful. And so can I play you just a little bit of this nice YouTube video?
Can you master?
If
you could hide to hold up in the green of and continue on when that takes me to the light. Do you think that you could ever through all these
I'm going to stop there. How many of you can do that? No. How about this one? Even little guys can actually get involved with this idea. Oh man, they're cute. They're cute, right? So what's my point here? Your voice is powerful, right? Your students, they want to hear you, however you decide to. I've never tried this, actually. I don't want to sing. I'm not going to do anything like that. But this is appealing, right? This is interesting and hopefully fairly exciting. Let's see if we can move on from here. So why do we use this audio feedback? These are our objectives. Hopefully we'll get to the next 25 minutes here. Why should you do this? What are some of the advantages for your students? I'll talk very briefly about some of the equipment to help you do it the best way you can. I'm going to go over some techniques, talk about a script that you can use when you're giving feedback to your students, and then hopefully we'll compare a couple of different types. And I'll talk about what I think are some of the pros and cons. I'm not really a researcher. I didn't spend a lot of time reading all the research. There's a ton of it out there if you'd like to get into some of this. But before I mention that, there's also what I would consider two types of feedback that you can give your students with audio visual. Basically, there's the whole class where you send something out that's just a blanket. It's like a mass email. You can send videos out. There have been presentations all throughout this conference talking about Kaltura, which is the BYU-Idaho video tool that you can use. And I use those for my weekly notes because I like to record something that's not very personal. I'll spend a little bit more time with that, and I'll put some slides or some pictures or embed different things depending on how I want to do that. And I use that for the whole class. Mostly what I want to focus on here today is this individual feedback that I give to students. And I typically just do this with my voice because if I'm going to give it to every single student, it's going to take a long time. And so I don't have the time to put together all of these slideshow and all of that, those things that I'm trying to do. So the research says that students need to feel this idea of presence. They need to feel like they belong in your class, and by listening to you, they have that closer connection, that experience. And BYU-Idaho cares about that presence, and hopefully you care about that. And this just brings them one step closer to you. And then the research also says that students learn better when they have good explanation feedback. When you take the time to explain to them what they've done well, how they can do better, and really point those things out to them. It's much better than saying, and if you're a math teacher, you know, the correct answer is 4 or whatever it is. They're not going to learn very much from that. And so this gives you a good opportunity to do that in a way that, for me as a teacher, I talk a lot. I could write down type long explanations of how they can improve their essays. Number one, I don't think they're going to pay attention to it. Number two, it's going to take me a really, really long time. So our advantages here, hopefully can save time for you, can make your job faster. The students really, really like it. They enjoy it. And the way I know that is because all of my evaluations, when I look at the end of the semester or midterm, students say, I like the feedback, I like listening. And so that makes me feel good because I get that kind of response. And they appreciate the detail that I can give to them that I probably wouldn't or couldn't do if I was just typing and writing for them. So what do you need as far as equipment goes? It's best if you can use an external microphone. Most of your computers now have built-in microphones, and those are okay to use, and that's a good starting point. I've used those for a couple of years. But if you can buy an external microphone, it doesn't have to cost very much money. 10, 15, 20 bucks on Amazon, and you can find just about everything that you want. But you'll get a better quality, you get a better recording quality, and you get a lot less background noise. You know, I work at my house, and many of you do too, and occasionally doors shut and kids run around and stomp up and down and cats meow and all of those things. And if you have a microphone that's much closer to your mouth, you just eliminate a lot of that background noise. And things like your lights, your appliances that give off even a hum, you can cut out a lot of that humming sound. Or you can build a sound studio in your house and try that, but much more expensive and it doesn't actually work as well that way. Some of you might ask, do I want a USB or an analog microphone? This is not studio recording quality, and so it probably doesn't really matter, whichever one that you're happiest with whatever's compatible with your computer. That's my recommendation. And the other thing that I want to say about microphones, what was that?
Thinking of background sounds?
Yes, background noise. It's fine. I don't think we're picking up any of this on the video. But a little bit of investment that way, I think, is a pretty good plan for you to use if you can. And the other thing you want to do is not put it directly in front of your mouth. You need to give yourself a little bit of distance. I use a headset microphone. It's actually sitting in my bag. I was going to show you. But I found that if I tilt it up, it feels kind of weird, but right above my nose or right below my chin, when I say a puh or a duh sound, it doesn't echo quite as bad. It's a little bit more crisp. And the only way I knew that actually is because I listened to it and said, oh, that sounds really bad, and you just play with it a little bit. And so you want to do that because your students will appreciate it, a little bit better sound quality, and they'll be able to listen to it. No, really, you don't have to go. So how do you do this? First off, one thing I found is a lot of people are uncomfortable listening and recording to the sound of your voice. And you can nod if that's you, and that's okay. But in order to get good at this, you need to read out loud. I was a broadcast major in college, and one of the things that we did is we practiced just reading out loud. Remember, one of my teachers said he would practice reading scripts to the doorknob in his house because that simulated a camera. And so just practice reading out loud, enunciating, listening to yourself and the way you talk. Record it and play it back. And you're going to cringe the first few times that you do that, and I'm not totally comfortable doing it either. But if you'll record it and play it back and listen, you'll learn things about the way that you say it, that you speak.
Are you at the stage where you listen to your recordings before you send them off, or you just do it and send them down?
I just send them. It takes too much time to listen to them all. Usually about every couple of days I'll listen to one to make sure everything's good, but just takes too much time when I'm trying to get through a whole lot of them. So you need to enunciate clearly, practice, smiling, opening your mouth wide, making sure that all of your syllables and things come out. That's why I say listen to them, because you'll start to slur words. Listen to your teenagers talk, your little kids, and when they start to slur words, don't copy them. You need to pronounce your words very clearly. One of the things that we find that they found is that if you will smile, even though your students can't see you, it helps improve the sincerity in your voice. Smile at them. Be happy when you're doing this, because it'll come through in your voice in ways that you probably don't recognize. But much better than, if you're really angry at a student and you kind of have that frowny face, you probably don't want to record your voice, because that will come through as well to them. When I do it, I sit there in front of my computer and I do all the gestures and everything I do in front of my class, I do for my students, even though they can't see it, because it feels more natural. It helps me put pauses in. It helps me to stop and think, and it just helps the way that I do it. So it's okay. Hopefully nobody watches me, and I make sure that the camera is not on, so I'm not doing all of those things. The other thing that you'll find, and all of your radio personalities and TV personalities know this, when you're recording your voice, you can't just do your normal talking. It has to be up here. You have to put extra energy and extra enthusiasm, just like the guy on the radio that's trying to sell you a used car. You don't want to go quite that high, but somehow you have to have extra energy. Use your teacher voice when you're doing that. That might be another good way to do it. Or I give you the example of, I like to watch TED Talks a lot, and all of these teachers, all these presenters on TED, they have their own style, their own unique way of presenting. You need to find what that is as well. The way that you talk, the way you like to organize your little voice cast that you're trying to do. Because if you can do that, use your style, but also crank up that voice. Because if you don't raise and elevate your voice and make it more enthusiastic, it sounds like you're bored or you're tired. And sometimes you are bored and tired, and I understand that. But you don't want your students to pick up on that as well. And so I get really excited. Hey students, it's good to talk to you. Hey, this is what I want to share with you today. And I put that extra energy in, and they can feel that, and they feel a lot more enthusiastic that way. So any thoughts, questions about any of those things that I can share? I probably get too excited when I do it. Practice recording. It's okay to make a mistake when you're doing this recording. Because your students know that you're human, and if you're making a 2 or 3 or 4 minute recording and you say a word wrong or something like that, let it go. Get over that you're not perfect. Nobody talks perfectly. I've probably repeated myself 15 times already today, and I can't pause. I'm not going to make you cut it or edit it or anything like that. Sometimes if I really blow it or I say the wrong student's name, then I definitely have to stop and throw it away. And every once in a while I do that. I'm thinking one student, I say the wrong name, and I go back and I do that. So it's okay to stop and just throw it away and start over. And it's okay to make mistakes and let those go to your students as well, so as long as they're not big or anything like that. I would recommend avoiding editing software. Don't sit down and try to edit what you've done, because you'll take way too much time. You could spend an hour editing 1, 2, or 3 minute clip. It's okay. Every once in a while a dog barks and I'll let that go. Now if it becomes annoying to my listeners, I'll try to edit that out. So I recommend avoiding this. Get to the point where you're comfortable doing it in a one-shot deal. And that's kind of daunting, but your students are okay with that, I think. I really don't think that they mind having a mistake or two. Sometimes if I get far enough in, I'll say, oh, excuse me, I made a mistake, and I'll leave that on there, and I'll say, what I meant to say was this, or I say, look on page 3, and I say, oh, wait, I made a mistake, that's on page 5, or something like that. You can always pause it in the middle as long as your recording software is okay. You can pause it in the middle, look at your notes, and then pick up, resume, go from where you are if you need to regain your composure or something like that. Oh, did I go too far there? So what to use? And I mentioned this already. I mentioned with Brightspace, which is Island 3.0, which will become Island. When that comes out, when that comes in your course, use that. Use it. It's very easy. I really enjoyed it when I was on that pilot. And that was the one thing I missed when they said, hey, you're going back to the regular iLearn, because then I really had to look around. What I use is this thing called Vocaroo. And you don't have to use this. I'm not selling it. I don't make any money on it, anything like that. But it's web-based. And I really like that because there's no files to upload or download, so it's much faster. I just send my students the link. I have a lot of international students, and when I start sending files to them that are audio and video files, sometimes they have problems as well. And so far, I've only had one student have a problem opening her Vocaroo thing, and because everything was flooded and there was problems, and it had nothing to do with the program, it had everything to do with there was no internet.
I've never used Vocaloid. How does that compare to something like Jamie?
I'll show you here in just a minute. I'll show you here in just a minute. And I use Gene. I've done a ton of Genes. I have hundreds of Genes as well. I've used those as well. But I'll show you. And really anything, and this last bullet point makes a lot of sense to me. Use whatever is new and interesting. Ask your students. I do that with my high school students when I'm looking for new technologies. Hey, what are you guys using this month or this week? And they'll tell me, and then I'll try it. And sometimes I like it, sometimes not. So Vocaroo is really cool. I like it right now. 6 months from now, it might be something else, whatever the new wave of software, because this stuff comes and goes, and I might turn it on tomorrow and Vocaroo will be gone. I'll have to find something else, and I realize that can happen. But I like this for that other point that I can use it outside of my LMS. I can record something and I'll put it in an email to a student, and I've done that pretty regularly as well. So you're not just, in Brightspace, you have to leave it inside of the learning management system with something else. And so this is a good tool to have as well. And I'm sure I'll still use it when I'm on Brightspace, because occasionally I want to record things. I want to explain something to a student, and it needs to be an email. I can do it that way. But really, I don't care what you use. Use whatever you like, whatever you're comfortable with. I teach with some other members of my teaching group, use different things that they really like based on what kind of operating system and the computers and all of those things. So I'm almost to Vocaroo. I'll show you that in a minute. This is the script that I use. This is probably my favorite slide of this whole thing. And if you pick up nothing else, think about what I'm trying to do here. What I do when I hit record, and then I say hello to my student. Hi, Tom. Hi, brother Brown, whoever it is. I usually use first names, but it's up to you, whatever preference that you have. Or if I can't pronounce their first name, then I, of course, go with the last name as well. Then I introduce myself. I say, this is Brother Barrus. I want them to know that this is not just some automated robot. It's not a TA located somewhere in the world, but this is me, that I'm taking the time to respond to them. I think that's very important because they forget that very often. Then I tell them what assignment I'm going to comment on. I'm going to be commenting today on your profile essay. I'm going to be commenting on your discussion prompt, whatever it is, so they know exactly what it is, what lesson, what day. And I usually do this after I get done. So I'll say something like, I just finished reading your profile essay and I really enjoyed what you had to say, something like that. Then I tell them, I start off with what I thought that they did that was successful. I will say, I really liked your opening paragraph. I like the thesis statement. I thought you used some colorful writing. I really like this. And I'll spend 20, 30, 40 seconds, something like that, being very, very specific. I'll use their words, and I'm a writing teacher, right? So I can use their words very specifically, say, I really like what you did here, and I'll explain why. If we're working on thesis statements, I'll say your thesis statement was very good because you did this, this, and this. Sometimes they're not aware of that, and so I'll be very specific. I don't know, math teachers, if you can say, I really like the way you solved the problem, or your Book of Mormon teacher, I really liked how you share your testimony, whatever it is, whatever applies to your subject matter. And then I get into the work where they can improve. And I'll point them to page 1, paragraph 3 in their essay, and I'll say, you know, this part of it. Or often I give something global, and I'll say, you know, we had this problem, it didn't flow very well from idea to idea. And along those lines, I typically reference the rubric. I'll say, if you look at the rubric, I took off a couple of points here. I don't go through the whole rubric because that would take too long. That's very boring. But if there's a specific point of the rubric that I want them to focus on, I can talk about that. And the other thing, and the advantage as well of them being outside of the learning management system as they're listening to this is they'll have that rubric right there and they can look at it and be listening and looking at their comments that way. So I tell them where they can improve. I make reference to the rubric. Seems like there's one more point I wanted to make about that. I'll talk about how to fix it. And sometimes, and the other thing that I like to do is I'll, if there's a problem with students with run-on sentences, I'll say to them, I'm attaching a link here, or in the feedback section, I'll say, look for that link on how to improve run-on sentences, and please go and look at those resources. So I can also send them somewhere else and let them know where they need to look. And it's me telling them, not them just reading through and not knowing what this link is all about. I explain what the link is going to do and how that's going to help them. And so now I'm adding on to their learning experience so they can keep going and hopefully understand. Then at the end I say, thank you for listening. I look forward to your next essay, or let me know if you have any questions or something like that. Very, very polite. And then I try not to say good night, good day, anything like that, because I don't know if it's morning, noon, night, whatever, but it doesn't really matter, because sometimes I say good night and it's late at night and I'm ready to go to bed. And so they, I'm sure they'll get that. But I think if you can go through each one of these things, like I said, I can do all of this because I've had a little bit of practice in probably 1 to 4 minutes, depending on how many things I need to talk about in their things. So how does this work on vocaro? How to actually put this into what they're doing? This is what vocaro looks like when you pull it up. See how very simple it is? The interface for me is very, very easy to use. I don't know who this person is. I don't know anything like that. But all you have to do is hit click to record. And then on my computer, it pops up and says, do you want to allow access? And I, of course, do. And then it just starts rolling. And so I just start talking. I say, go through my whole spiel. Well, hi, Tom, this is for the Barrus. It's good to, and I go through my whole thing. And when I get done, what do? Click the stop, right? It's very, very simple to use. And then it comes up with this thing. You can listen to it. So occasionally I'll check myself. I'll hit play, and it pulls it up very fast. There's not sitting around time. Sometimes with Gene, you're sitting around while it's downloading and uploading and doing all this. Typically within 1 second, second and a half, I'm listening to what I've already done. And that's the other advantage of audio files. Audio files just work much faster than video files. So they're much more convenient that way. And assuming I like it, you can do a retry. If I totally blew something or something really bad happened, my phone rings, I hit retry, and then it starts recording immediately. There's only one button, it's going, it's live already. If I'm happy with recorded, I go on here, I click here to save, and then it pops up. Sorry, I made this really, really big, but you can do just about everything in the world that you want possibly to do with that. You can delete it, but it comes up with this link, and I just copy the link very, very quickly. Cut, Control C or whatever.
Do you have an account? Is this free?
It's free.
Okay, so
yep.
Just go there and do it.
There's no account. This is exactly, if you hit vocaroo.com, this is what pops up.
Does it save those, or once you've copied and pasted it, it's done, it's gone?
Yeah, you can't get back to it. Like if I wanted to look them up, but occasionally I've looked them up. I had my student that couldn't open it. I went back to hers and I could open it. And I listened to it and I just typed up my comments that way. And so what I do then is I come here and I say, please listen to my comments here. I put the link in for them, and then sometimes I put other things on there. And then the other thing that I always do is I change, you can edit your link properties, right? And I do the blank link, and that way it opens in a new window, so it doesn't take them out of the course. And most of you probably, I'm sure, are well aware of that. And that's all I do. And then I hit the update button, and it's there. It appears for them. Yes.
So how often do you get audio feedback? Does like every student get audio feedback on every assignment, or just once a week, or how do you do that?
I do. I get 4 big essays for my students, and I typically use this for 3 of them, something like that.
The fourth is like a clip they're sending you that they create.
Yeah, sometimes I'll even do this on those. The other thing, the one time I don't do it is if there's major problems, or usually once during the semester I do a full one with the Gene where I actually go through, show them their essay, and I go blow by blow through that. One of the instructors I work with, he uses it all the time on discussion. He even has the students use it on discussion. Instead of them typing up, he has them do that. That would drive me crazy, I think, because I don't want to sit there and listen. I can read much faster than I can listen, but he really likes that, and he does a lot of his comments in discussion. But I can do these, right? I have to, my class is about typically around 25 students, And so I'll spend 8 to 10 minutes probably reading an essay, but I can get through this feedback in 2 or 3 minutes, and it's done, and it's to them, and they're happy. And
So
life
you
is
just
good
make
that way.
notes as you're reading their essay and then give your feedback from your notes.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Either that, or I'm getting pretty good at it, where I don't have to make too many notes even. Because I'll have their essay up while I'm recording.
Sure.
I have 2 screens going. So this screen's recording, this screen I have their essay, so I can kind of glance through it and make comments. And it's all about efficiency and being fast that way. I hope that makes kind of a little bit of sense. Other question? Yeah.
How long, like Gene has a 5-minute limit, how long, is there a limit on?
I haven't found a limit yet. No. I try to keep them under 5 minutes because at that point I'm sure I'm bored and they're bored as well. And every time I've heard a presentation like this, everybody says, you know, Gene's 5-minute limit is pretty darn good. And really in 2 to 3 minutes you can say a lot. You can speak very, very fast. And I try to speak quickly to try to get it all in. Probably speaking too fast today as well. Let's see, so I'm going to go through these really quickly if I can. Just my thoughts on comparing different ways you can use audio, video, feedback. I know there have been a lot of other presentations, and I would send you to those too as well during our conference. So the audio feedback, what I like about just doing the audio, like I said, it's a very small file. So your international students that have really bad internet, they can usually get to it without any trouble. It's very quick upload and download. I'm not sitting around waiting for Gene to do its thing. And it's compatible on most devices. You don't have as many audio files are just much more universal, it seems like. And so however you choose to do it, it seems like you can have a fewer programs or fewer problems. Sorry about that. Disadvantages, there's nothing for students to see. There's nothing for them to look at, of course. And in my case, I think there's a little bit more ad-libbing. When I do the video stuff, I tend to be a little bit more prepared. But I don't think I'm willing to trade that off by giving them good quality feedback. Every student is going to hear something from me that way. Screencasting or screen recording, which is what Gene does essentially. You can record your screen and voice. I've used Gene, I've used Kaltura, I've done both of those, and they both have their advantages, I think.
Do you favor one or the other?
I've used Gene less. I use Gene if I'm giving feedback to a student. I use Kaltura for my instructor notes and things like that because I can embed it into the iLearn. You can't embed the Gene into iLearn, so it gets better. That's the big difference that I use. Also, you do have unlimited time on Kaltura, but that's a two-way story on that one. The advantage students can see your critiques while looking at their work. You can actually walk them through like a math problem, a science problem, any problem that you want to. Students really like this as well. Advantage, it does take more time. I find I spend more time when I do them, and it takes a lot more bandwidth. The whole uploading, sharing, that whole business just seems to take a really long time. And it's more of a challenge to your students. I've had more problems. Students can't open the Gene for whatever reason. Their software, their computer, there's some problem, something hidden in there, and they just can't figure it out. And so those are just my thoughts that way, I guess. And this is what it looks like when I do this for my students. I will go through, like I said, if I have essays that are really bad, or I try to at least pick one during the semester, and I'll go through it, and sometimes I'll type a few notes, or I'll just highlight different things as I'm going through reading their essay. And then I pull it up, I circle it with Gene, I start recording, and then I just start talking, and I roll through their essay, and I say, I like this, when you work here, this is a problem, something like that. And then I send that to them. Like I said, some of my English language learners, I try to do this because they need to see it a little bit better. And or if I have an essay that I really can't talk about, I got to show them. There's bigger problems. I almost never do these on my A+ essays because it just takes too long. There's not that much to talk about. And so I'll still make some recommendations that way. Your last option is you can do this video selfie. You can record yourself to your students, right? And the advantages are it's very intimate. You can look your students in the eye and you can talk to them about things. And if you look really good, you might want to do that, right? You just might want to, smile for the camera that way. The disadvantages are, of course, that at 10 o'clock at night, I don't look that good, and I don't want to, make myself look presentable to them. The other challenge is how do I integrate my learning material? What's the advantage of them seeing me if they're not going to see their work or see their problems or anything like that? So I don't know if that's a great advantage or a great advantage at all that way. For personal things though, if you need to really discuss it with them and you can't get them on the Skype or in your Connect office, I think I would use that way. And then the other problem with your video is you don't have a sound studio, and I'm down in my room there, and it's not the prettiest of things to look at. When I meet with my students, sometimes I'm moving things around, I have to get the camera just right. And so you want to keep that in mind when you're recording something live video. What does it look like behind you? Is it going to give a good professional impression, or does it look like some guys living in his mom's place? My last thought here, and this goes to ESL students. I did do a little bit of reading about this because I wanted to say the right thing here. They do like the audio feedback, but it does need to be simpler. I don't talk as fast for my ESL students, and I try to stick to very basic concepts because I'm not sure how well that they will necessarily comprehend them, and it needs to be accompanied by more written feedback so they can actually read some of their comments as well as listen. Or you might actually use the gene, use the video, something like that. Questions, thoughts, comments? Yes.
So
Go ahead.
one of the classes I was in this morning, it was like vocaroo, but they said you could create a little avatar that talked for you. Can you use him?
I've never thought about it. I've used that app before, or I've used that program before. Is it Voki?
Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
Voki.
So they were saying sometimes I didn't know if you'd ever.
I think what Voki does is you actually type it, and then it speaks for you, which is really kind of humorous because it doesn't pronounce things very well.
Oh,
It looks kind of robotic, but try it. I think your students will get a kick out of it. Do that once. It'd be really exciting. Like I said, whatever's exciting, use that. Try it.
Right, so can we get our videos ready beforehand? Like, so if we want to embed it in, like, how does Brightspace work exactly?
Brightspace. Oh, you're asking. Yeah.
So
So Brightspace, you can embed a Kaltura video in there.
Okay.
So if you want to make a video like the screencast,
I'm like,
Yeah. I'm not sure that I don't know if you can, I'm trying to remember if you can embed in your actual feedback, like where you're grading. I don't know if you can do that or
But
not.
like for my news page, for like.
Yeah, for your news page, you can embed those.
And Kaltura's all you do.
And that's why I started using Kaltura, is because of that. And then, but the thing that Kaltura does do, or Brightspace, there's a button for audio feedback, there's a button for video feedback. That video is you, it's not a screen share, which would be nice if they could do that. That would be the next step up, because for all those reasons. Yes?
So on the new, on this Brightspace, when it has the audio feedback, can you have their assignment up? Can you pull their assignment up and then do the audio feedback?
Do you remember? You done it? It's right at the bottom. You know where right now there's a rubric or something like that, and at the bottom you can put notes. There's just buttons along the bottom. So at the very least you can see the rubric. You can probably have, like I said, I work on 2 monitors, so I can always see their. If you're not doing that, you should do it. It'll save you hours of clicking buttons. Actually, it's a big deal. I don't remember. You have to look at that. I know I'm English. We don't get rolled out for a whole another year on that. Most of you. Like they said, 16 departments are the last rollout. So right now it's 5 or 6 and 5 or 6. So you all get trained on that. I think